Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers delivers his State of the State address this evening. The speech comes after several State House Republicans offered up tax relief proposals at the Wisconsin Capitol. Now, the plan offers $500 in money for the state school tax levy credit, something that could offset local property taxes in that state. The Republican leadership also proposing $1.5 billion in income tax rebates. Married people in Wisconsin would get a $1,000 check, while single tax filers would get $500. There's also $200 million included for special education funding, $30 million for people and businesses who saw damage during last summer's flooding, and a few $1 million more for teachers who buy their own classroom supplies. And while Evers tips his hat to the question of affordability in his speech this evening, will he discuss tax relief from Wisconsin residents? We'll find out tonight. Meanwhile, in Washington, the Senate there passed a measure, Senate Bill 6346, where supporters call it a millionaire's tax. And in Washington state, it would impose a 9.9% levy on personal income over $1 million. Republicans there say the bill will drive wealthy residents and investors out of the state, and they also claim it's unconstitutional. Now, while they were debating this, Republicans brought forward several amendments, but Democrats resisted those amendments, including one to have voters weigh in to possibly amend the state constitution to allow for such an income tax change. Washington Senate's Minority Leader John Braun, he said that the proposal looks to tax high earners, but could become a tax on everyone.
And this comes at a time when state revenues have never been higher. They once again are trying to solve a spending problem with more taxes. And I think it's going to be very harmful, I'd say even destructive, to not only businesses in our state, but also people as the costs filter down to just the average Washingtonian. Not to mention the fact that, as the Senate Majority Leader clearly said in committee, this is likely to become not just a tax on high earners, which is what we're considering right now, but ultimately a tax on everyone.
Now that measure now heads to the House in that state for consideration. From Washington state to Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker, he's set to deliver his budget address tomorrow. We'll talk with Jim Talamonte from the Center Square about that a little bit later on in the show. But some of the chatter from Democratic leaders in Chicago and the state capitol in Springfield focuses on a millionaire's tax. One proposal asks voters to change the state constitution with the promise of half of the money going to property tax relief and the other half going to public schools. Earlier this month, Democratic state senators Robert Peters and Karina Villa, they laid out their thoughts on pushing for a millionaire's tax in the land of Lincoln.
We need to take the money from these ultra-rich billionaires and make it so less people have to go to a food pantry. Make it so a safety net hospital is able to stay open.
So we in Illinois need to be the adults in the room, right? We in Illinois need to tax those corporations and those billionaires.
Now, in 2020, voters statewide rejected a proposal to change the Illinois Constitution's flat income tax to a progressive tax. They could be facing a similar question in the November election. Last week in Georgia, the Senate approved a measure that could eliminate an estimated $9 billion in income taxes from Georgia residents by increasing the standard deduction for married couples and single filers, essentially eliminating the state income tax for some. That measure in Georgia now heads to the Georgia House. And in Florida, property taxes are in the sights of the governor. House Joint Resolution 203, it would phase out non-school homestead property taxes over the next decade. 60% of voters agree. That measure cleared its final House committee last month and is now ready for a vote in the full chamber, and it's been added to the Florida special order calendar for February 19th. From Florida to Tennessee, a referendum that would permanently ban the General Assembly from enacting a statewide property tax is on the ballot in November. In Virginia, some proposals include changing their tax policies to increase local sales taxes, expand sales taxes on services like car repairs, pet care, and more, a new payroll tax to fund paid leave for family and sick leave, and higher income tax brackets for top earners. And while many measures remain in early stages, several are moving alongside budget negotiations in legislative chambers in Virginia. That's just a little look at some of the different tax and spend policies from across the country.